Hello and welcome back. So we are on chapter 7. So this should be Monday. Um, and we have read chapters 1 through 6 and the in between sections. So it's getting good. Okay, chapter 7. Not the right chapter. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so today we're going to be doing chapter 7, and then be sure you also listen to and do the questions for chapter 8 as well. Gucci. Okay, chapter 7. He had been running for 40 hours now. Just as he left Draper's Crossing, he passed a cornfield that the attackers had tried to burn. Some ears of corn had been roasted. Hunger took him like a wolf, and he grabbed half a dozen ears. Jamming them into his clothing, he ate as he walked, letting the sweet corn juice slide down his throat and into his stomach. The hunger was so intense that eating the corn made his jaws ache. The food made his body demand water. He hadn't taken time to find a well or where one was. When he came to a small creek, he stopped to drink. The water was muddy where the creek crossed the trail. So he moved off into the thick underbrush 20 yards upstream to where the creek ran clear. He knelt to put his mouth to the water, and this act, he swears, saved his life. His lips had no sooner touched the water than he heard men's voices. It was a native tongue, and they were loud and laughing. There were 2 of them. Had they come upon Samuel, they surely would have taken or killed him. Samuel kept his head near the ground. Through small holes in the brush, he could see them from the waist down. They wore leather leggings and high moccasins, and each carried a musket in one hand. He could see the butts hanging at their sides, and either a coopstick or a killing lance in the other. Both of the men had fresh scalps hanging on the shafts they carried. For the first time in his life, Samuel wanted to kill a man. The overwhelming rage that he had begun to feel while following his mother's small footprints as she'd been savagely jerked along the trail was like a hot knife in his brain. If there had only been one, he would have done it. But he carried no tomahawk. All he had was a skinning knife, and his rifle fired only one shot. After that, the one he didn't shoot would turn on him before he could reload. With only a knife to defend himself, he'd have almost no chance. So he waited until they were out of sight. Then, staying low and moving slowly, he went back to the trail. Why had the men come back? Whatever the reason, 2 men alone would not backtrack too far into potential hostile country. If there were any kind of force after them, they would want to keep moving. So Samuel thought, maybe I'm getting close. He picked up the pace to a jog, but staying well on the side of the trail on the edge of the thicker undergrowth in case he ran into any others. And again, this move saved his life. This move saved his life. There we go. It's also Monday for me, y'all. Clearings left by old beaver ponds were scattered through the forest. Some were small, an acre or 2. Others were 30 or 40 acres. A large clearing popped up in front of Samuel now. It was late afternoon, almost evening, and the sun slanted from the west behind him into the clearing. It was another stroke of luck. The clearing had been turned into a large encampment filled with Indians, some British soldiers in red uniforms, and nearly a quarter of a mile away, freight wagons hooked up to horses. Samuel slid into the underbrush. He crawled farther back where he couldn't be seen. Unfortunately, he couldn't see either, and he squatted in the thick foliage and tried to remember what he'd seen. 3 wagons ready to go out, 10 or 15 soldiers, including 3 officers on horses, and 10 or 15 Indians. He shook his head. No, not so many soldiers. 7 or 8, and fewer Indians. 8 or 9. One large fire in the center of the clearing, one smaller one closer to the wagons, a group of people huddled there, the captives. There hadn't been time to see them clearly, and they weren't too far away for him to see if his mother and father were in the group. In a rope pen near the wagons were 1 or 2 horses, 3 or 4 oxen, and maybe a milk cow. There was also a spit set up over the larger fire with some kind of big animal cooking, which meant they were going to be here for some time, perhaps the night. He settled slowly back on his haunches, careful not to move the brush around him. He had caught up to them. There was a chance his mother and father were there with that group of captives. He still had no plan how to rescue them, though. Everything he'd done was just to catch up. see if they were even still alive. Could they be here? He hadn't come across their bodies on the trail, and there were captives by the fire. For the moment, that was enough. The plan would come later. It would soon be dark. There was still no moon. Now he was astonished that it had only been 40 or so hours since he had returned from the hunt. His whole life, everything in it and around it was different now, torn and gutted and forever changed from all that it had been. And it would never be the same. It would be dark soon. And in the dark, he thought, with no moon, in the near pitch dark of starlight, there might be possibilities. But he had no plan, and it would be dark soon. And just then, as he settled back to wait and think on some way to get the captives without being discovered, the whole world blew up in his face. Now, obviously, that is being figurative. The whole world did not actually blow up in his face. But go ahead and answer the questions for Chapter 7 and then hop back on here and listen to Chapter 8. As you can see that Chapter 7 was a pretty short chapter. Chapter 7 was a pretty short chapter. Chapter 8 is also a really short chapter, so make sure that you hop over, answer those questions, and then hop back over to YouTube and listen to Chapter 8. Oh, I forgot to read the questions for today. Why didn't y'all say something? Oh, right, because y'all can't. I'm just kidding. Okay, Chapter 7. Sorry I didn't do this at the beginning of the video. Like I said, it's Monday. Okay, so the questions for Chapter 7 say, number 1, how long had Samuel been running? Number 2, who did Samuel find? Number 3, what happened for the first time in his life? And number 4, what was he trying to plan? So, those are your 4 questions that you need to go answer. And then once you are done answering those questions, and be sure you are typing in the attached Google Doc. Once you are done answering those questions, hop back over here for Chapter 8, and I promise it'll be a good one.